I am recording these entries separate from the official ship's log at Captain Harker's instruction. What follows is an accurate account of events that occurred during our Pacific crossing. Events that cannot be officially documented without inviting questions we cannot answer. My name is Samuel Thorne. I am 42 years old and have served as first mate on whaling vessels for 19 years. I know the difference between a whale and a shark, between a giant squid and a school of tuna. I know how light plays tricks on water, how exhaustion creates phantoms, how the ocean can deceive even experienced eyes. What followed us from Japan was none of these things. May 3rd, 1897. Departure. The Reliance departed Hakodate with a crew of 23 men. We had spent the winter hunting sperm whales in the waters around Japan with moderate success. 17 whales taken, enough to fill our holds 2/3 full with oil and bone. Captain Harker decided to hunt the migration routes back to California, hoping to fill the remaining space before making port in San Francisco. The crew was experienced. Most had sailed together for multiple seasons. Our harpooners, Silas Mackay, John Chen, and a Portuguese named Costa, were among the best in the Pacific Fleet. Our cooper, blacksmith, and try-works crew could process a 60-foot whale in under 8 hours. We were efficient. We were professional. We had no reason to expect anything unusual. The weather was fair as we headed east-northeast, following the warm Kuroshio current. The sea ran in long, gentle swells. Lookouts reported scattered whale blows to the south, but Captain Harker wanted deeper water, wanted to intercept the main migration farther from the Japanese coast. On our 3rd day out, we found what we were looking for. May 6th, 1897. "There she blows!" The cry came from the crow's nest at dawn. 2 points off the starboard bow. Big bull, maybe 60 feet. We launched 2 boats, mine and the captain's. I took Silas as my harpooner, 4 oarsmen, and young Timothy Ward as boat steerer. The whale was indeed large, a massive sperm bull that blew every 12 minutes in perfect rhythm. Standard hunt protocol. We closed to within 30 yards. Silas stood in the bow with the harpoon, waiting for my signal. The whale surfaced, its back gleaming in the morning sun, and Silas struck, the harpoon buried deep. The whale sounded immediately, diving straight down, taking 200 fathoms of line so fast the loggerhead smoked. We doused it with seawater while the line screamed through the chocks. Then the line went slack. Not gradually, not the normal easing when a whale levels off. Just slack, all at once, as if something had cut it below. "Haul in!" I ordered. The crew pulled, and we retrieved perhaps 150 fathoms before the line came up, severed, not frayed, not broken under tension, cut clean as if by a blade. Silas examined the end. "Sir, look at this. The strands aren't pulled apart. They're sheared all at once." I had never seen anything like it. Whale line was 3-inch hemp, tarred and twisted. It took tremendous force to break it, but breaks always showed separation, individual strands failing in sequence. This was different. "Lost him!" Captain Harker called from his boat. "Damn strange, though. That bull was well struck. Should have run himself tired, not dove and cut free." We returned to the ship with no whale and questions I couldn't answer. May 8th, 1897. We struck another whale 2 days later. This time 3 boats, mine, the captain's, and the second mate's. A cow perhaps 45 feet, with a calf nearby. Not ideal hunting, but Captain Harker wanted the oil. John Chen made the strike from the captain's boat. Clean hit, deep penetration. The whale ran, pulling the boat in a Nantucket sleigh ride for 20 minutes before tiring. We closed in for the kill. That's when I saw it. Something moved beneath the whale, something large and dark that wasn't the shadow of the whale itself. It passed underneath our target, circled once, and disappeared into the deep. "Did you see that?" Timothy asked beside me. "Current," I said, though I didn't believe it. The captain's boat moved in for the killing lance. The whale was exhausted, barely moving. Then, without warning, it was dragged under. Not diving, dragged. I saw its tail lifted vertical as something below pulled it down with tremendous force. The harpoon line snapped, the whale disappeared, and for just a moment, the water where it had been turned dark, not with blood, but with something else, something black as ink, spreading in clouds through the blue Pacific. What the hell was that? Captain Harker stood in his boat, lance ready, staring at empty water. We waited for 30 minutes. The whale never resurfaced, neither did whatever had taken it. May 12th, 1897. No whales sighted for 4 days. The lookouts reported blows in the distance. But every time we changed course, too. Investigate. The whales would sound and not resurface. It was as if they were fleeing the area, driven by something we couldn't see. The crew was starting to talk. Sailors are superstitious by nature, and unexplained events breed speculation. I heard whispers about ghost whales, about cursed waters, about things from Japanese folklore. Umibozu, sea demons that destroyed ships. Captain Harker called me to his cabin that evening. He was studying charts, his face troubled. "Sam, you've been whaling as long as I have. You ever heard of whales being taken by something else? Something that hunts them?" "Orcas hunt whales," I said. "Packs of them will take down even a large bull. We've seen no orcas, and orcas don't move like what I saw." He tapped the chart. "Something followed that cow down. Something that moves fast and strikes hard. Something that bleeds black." "Squid," I suggested. "Giant squid. They can grow massive in deep water, and they have ink." "That wasn't ink. And squid don't hunt whales." He looked at me directly. "I think we harpooned something that wasn't a whale. I think on May 6th, when Silas struck, we hit something else that was under or near that bull. And whatever it is, it's still with us." I wanted to dismiss this as exhaustion or anxiety, but I had seen the shadow beneath the cow. I had seen the black spreading through the water. "What do you want to do?" "Run for California. No more hunting. We put on all sail and make port as fast as possible." He paused. "And we keep double watch at night." May 15th, 1897. It appeared alongside the ship at midnight. I was on watch with Timothy when I saw the bioluminescence. Patches of glowing water are common, plankton disturbed by fish or porpoises. But this was different. The glow formed a shape moving parallel to our hull, keeping pace despite our full sail. The shape was enormous, easily 80 feet long, perhaps more. It moved with undulating grace, closer to the surface than any whale would. "Swim at night." "Mr. Thorne," Timothy's voice was tight with fear. "What is that?" I leaned over the rail, trying to make out detail beyond the glow. For just a moment, the moon broke through clouds, and I saw it clearly. The body was elongated, serpentine, covered in scales or plates that reflected moonlight like dark mirrors. Multiple fins or appendages ran along its length, too many for any whale, positioned wrong for any fish I knew. The head, briefly visible as it turned, was flat and broad with what might have been eyes or might have been something else entirely. Then it dove, and the bioluminescence faded, leaving only dark water and the sound of our own wake. "Did you see—" Timothy started. "I saw nothing," I said firmly. "Light on water, phosphorescence, log it as such." But I had seen, and it had seen us. May the 18th, 1897, the attacks began, not on the ship directly, but on anything we put in the water. We lost 2 sea anchors, their lines severed clean. A sailor washing canvas over the side had his bucket torn from his hands with such force it broke his fingers. When we lowered a boat to investigate damage to the rudder, something struck it from below, splintering the bottom planks and forcing us to haul it up before it sank. The crew was terrified. Men refused to work over the side. The helmsman reported strange resistance on the rudder, as if something was pushing against it, testing it, and every night the bioluminescence appeared, sometimes on the starboard side, sometimes port, occasionally directly ahead, always keeping pace, always watching. Captain Harker increased speed, pushing the Reliance harder than was safe. We were making 8 knots in moderate seas, our rigging strained to the limit, but the thing kept pace effortlessly. On the night of the 18th, it surfaced completely. I was below when I heard the shout. By the time I reached deck, half the crew was at the rail, staring at something 50 yards off our port beam. It floated on the surface, backlit by a half-moon. The body was massive. I estimated 70 to 80 feet in length and perhaps 12 feet across at its widest point. The scales or plates covering it were dark blue-black, edged with patterns that might have been natural markings or might have been scars from centuries in the deep. The head was nightmarish, broad and flat like a whale's, but wrong in every detail. The mouth was too wide, filled with teeth that didn't match. Some pointed like a shark's, others flat like grinding plates, still others hooked like a squid's beak. And the eyes. God, the eyes. Positioned on the sides of the head like a whale's, but too large, too aware, reflecting our ship's lantern light with intelligence that made my skin crawl. It studied us for perhaps 5 minutes, its body undulating slowly in the swell. Then it rolled, showing us a belly covered in what looked like healed harpoon scars, dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, marks from ships across decades or centuries, including one fresh wound, our harpoon still embedded in thick hide, trailing broken line. Silas McKay stood beside me, his face pale. "That's my iron. That's the one I threw on May 6th. We didn't hit a whale. We hit that." The creature rolled again, dove, and was gone. But now we understood. We had wounded it, and it had followed us 2,000 miles across the Pacific, learning our ship, studying our patterns, waiting. May 22nd, 1897. The food ran out on the 20th. We had planned for a 30-day crossing with full rations, but Captain Harker's decision to run instead of hunt meant no fresh whale meat, no supplemental oil for lamps. We were down to hardtack and salt pork, with water rationed to 2 cups per man per day. The crew was weakening, and the creature knew it. It began bumping the hull, not ramming, just pushing, testing our strength, our response. Each impact shook the entire ship, sent men sprawling, reminded us that something massive was down there, that the only thing between us and the deep was wooden planking. We tried everything. We fired rifles into the water when it surfaced. The bullets had no effect. We dumped barrel after barrel of whale oil, hoping the slick would confuse or repel it. It swam through without concern. We even tried playing music, based on old sailors' tales about calming sea monsters. It ignored us completely. On the night of the 22nd, It took a man. Henrik Sorensen was on watch at the bow. He leaned over to check the forward running lights and simply disappeared. No cry, no splash, just there one moment and gone the next. We found his knife on the deck, dropped mid-use, and scratches on the rail where he'd grabbed for purchase. We never saw his body. May 25th, 1897. 3 more men gone. 2 pulled over the rail while working the rigging. 1 who fell from the crow's nest, though the lookout swore he saw something rise from the water to meet the falling man before he hit the surface. The crew was breaking. Men huddled below decks, refusing to work. Captain Harker tried to maintain order, but you can't command men paralyzed by fear. That afternoon, Costa, the Portuguese harpooner, came to me with a wild plan. "We give it what it wants," he said. "It wants whale. We make it think we are whale." "What are you talking about?" he explained. We had barrels of rendered whale oil in the hold. We could pump it over the side at night, create a slick that might smell like wounded whale. Then we rig a float, something that looks like a whale body in the dark, attach our strongest harpoons. When it strikes, we use the Triworks winch to haul it close enough to kill with lances. It was insane, but we were desperate. Captain Harker approved the plan. May 26th, 1897. Night we prepared at dusk. Pumped 200 gallons of whale oil over the stern, creating a slick that stretched 100 yards behind us. Built a float from barrels and canvas, roughly whale-shaped, soaked in blood from our remaining salt pork. Rigged it with 3 harpoons on our strongest manila line, backed by the Triworks winch that could haul a 60-ton whale. The moon was new, perfect darkness. We set the float adrift at midnight and waited. The bioluminescence appeared within minutes. The creature rose from below, circling the float, investigating. I could see its outline through the glowing plankton, massive, graceful, utterly alien. Then it struck. The impact was so violent it nearly tore the winch from its moorings. The float exploded into splinters. The creature had it, had the harpoons embedded, and now the manila line screamed through the blocks as it dove. "Hold!" Captain Harker roared. "Let it run! Let it tire!" But it didn't tire. It pulled with strength beyond anything I'd experienced in 19 years of whaling. The ship's stern dipped as the creature's weight dragged us backward. Water poured over the taffrail. "Cut the line!" someone screamed. "No!" Costa was at the winch, his face set with terrible determination. "We have it! We can kill it!" The creature changed tactics. Instead of pulling away, it swam toward us, surfacing directly alongside the hull. Its body pressed against the ship with pressure that made timbers groan. And then, deliberately, methodically, it began to roll. The Reliance tilted. Men grabbed for handholds as the deck angled 15 degrees, 20, 30. Cargo shifted below. The masts swayed at impossible angles. "It's capsizing us!" Timothy shouted. Captain Harker made the decision. "Cut the line! Cut it now!" Costa hesitated 1 second too long. The creature rolled harder, and the Reliance went to 45 degrees. Men slid across the deck. Barrels broke loose and smashed through the rail. The sea rushed up to meet us. I grabbed an axe and severed the manila line with 3 desperate strokes. The tension released. The creature, freed, dove instantly. The ship righted itself with a violent snap that threw half the crew to the deck. We lay there gasping, while water poured from the scuppers and the ship groaned and settled. We had failed, and now we had no weapons, no plan, and a creature that had learned we could hurt it. May the 28th, 1897. It didn't attack that night or the next. It just followed. its bioluminescent outline visible every hour after sunset, keeping pace, waiting. The crew was convinced we were dead men. Some prayed. Others wrote letters they knew would never be delivered. A few simply sat and stared at the water, broken by fear and exhaustion. Captain Harker and I studied the charts. We were perhaps 800 miles from San Francisco, maybe 4 days in good wind. But the wind was dying, and our food was gone, and men were too weak to work the sails properly. "It's hurting us," the captain said quietly, "keeping us out here until we're too weak to fight. Then it'll take us one by one, or all at once, doesn't matter which. There must be something. There's nothing. It's older than us, Sam. Older than whaling, older than ships. We stuck an iron in it, and now it wants payment, blood for blood." That night I stood at the stern watching the bioluminescence. The creature surfaced briefly, and in the starlight I saw its eye, huge, reflective, utterly aware. It knew we were defeated. It was just deciding when to finish us. May 30th, 1897. Salvation came from an unexpected direction. At dawn, the lookout spotted a sail, a steam whaler heading east, less than 5 miles away. We fired distress rockets, raised every flag we had, and by some miracle they saw us. The ship was the Pacific Star out of Seattle, equipped with modern steam engines and explosive harpoons. Her captain, a Norwegian named Larsen, came aboard and listened to our story with increasing skepticism. "You're telling me a sea monster followed you from Japan. I'm telling you something is in these waters that hunts ships," Captain Harker replied. "And if you don't believe me, stay here tonight and watch." Larsen agreed, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps because he saw the truth in our crew's terrified faces. The creature appeared at sunset. It surfaced 100 yards from the Pacific Star, showing itself fully. 80 feet of scaled nightmare that moved with intelligence and purpose. Larsen's crew stared in shocked silence. "Load the guns," Larsen said quietly. "All of them." The Pacific Star had 4 deck-mounted harpoon guns that fired explosive-tipped projectiles. Modern whaling technology against something ancient and angry. The creature circled both ships, studying this new threat. Then it dove. "It's going to ram us," I said. Larsen nodded. "Probably. Gunners, fire on my command. Target the water where you think it'll surface." We waited. The sunset stretched into dusk. The sea was perfectly calm. Then the bioluminescence appeared, rising from the deep, coming up directly beneath the Pacific Star. "Fire!" All 4 guns discharged at once. The harpoons punched into the water, and a fraction of a second later the explosions came. Deep, concussive thumps that sent columns of water 40 feet into the air. The creature surfaced thrashing. 3 of the 4 harpoons embedded in its body. The explosives had torn massive wounds in its hide. Black blood, the same black we'd seen weeks before, poured into the ocean. It was wounded, badly wounded, but not dead. It turned toward the Pacific Star with terrible speed, mouth opening to reveal that nightmare arrangement of mismatched teeth. It was going to take the ship with it. Larsen fired the last gun himself, at point-blank range, straight into the creature's open mouth. The explosion was internal this time. The creature's head came apart in a spray of black blood and torn flesh. The body convulsed once, twice, then went still, floating on the surface in a spreading pool of darkness. We watched it for an hour, rifles ready, until there was no doubt it was dead. Whatever it was finally dead. June 2nd, 1897. San Francisco. The Pacific Star towed us into San Francisco Harbor. The Reliance was too damaged to sail properly. and our crew too weakened to work her. We made port with 6 men dead, Captain Harker's reputation destroyed, and a cargo hold half empty. Captain Larson tried to bring the creature's body in as proof. It sank during the tow, slipping into deep water before they could properly secure it. All we had were photographs he'd taken, grainy images that showed something large and strange but could be dismissed as doctored or misidentified. The shipping company wanted answers. We gave them a story about rough seas and mechanical failures and a crew that panicked under pressure. Captain Harker was relieved of command. Several crew members, including myself, were blacklisted from working Pacific whaling ships. The official record states we lost 6 men to accidents and poor seamanship during a routine crossing. No mention of what followed us. No mention of Costa's desperate plan, or Larson's rescue, or the thing that bled black and hunted us across 5,000 miles of ocean. Final entry, 1924. I'm 69 years old now. Writing this from a boarding house in Seattle where old sailors go to die. I never went whaling again after 1897. Took work on cargo ships, stayed in coastal waters, avoided the deep Pacific, but I keep track of reports, ships that disappear between Japan and California, whaling crews that report strange encounters, bodies found floating with wounds that don't match known predators. In 1903, a whaler out of Yokohama reported harpooning something that dragged their ship backward for 3 days before they cut it loose. In 1911, a crew off the Aleutians photographed what they called a dragon whale. The image shows something serpentine and scaled, 80 feet long. In 1919, a steamship crossing from Tokyo radioed about being followed by a bioluminescent shape that matched their speed for 2,000 miles before finally breaking off near Hawaii. We didn't kill the only one. There are more of them down there in the deep Pacific, in trenches that have never seen sunlight, in waters too deep for whaling ships to hunt. Ancient things that remember when the oceans were different, when nothing hunted them, when they ruled the depths without challenge. We harpooned one, and it followed us. It taught us that some things in the ocean are not prey. Some things hunt back. I tell this to the young sailors who drink in the boarding house bar, but they don't believe me. They think I'm just another old man with sea stories exaggerated by time and whiskey. That's fine. Let them think what they want, but I know what I saw. I know what followed us from Japan to California. I know what intelligence looked like in that massive eye. What purpose drove something to pursue a ship across an ocean for the crime of causing it pain. And I know that somewhere in the Pacific, in darkness and cold where no light reaches, they're still there, still hunting, still remembering. God help. The next crew that plants an iron in one and doesn't have a Captain Larson nearby to save them. The ocean is patient, and it never forgets.